Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. US House approves one big beautiful bill with 3.5% outward remittance tax provision. Supreme Court advocates for greater representation of women in judiciary by reinstating female judicial officer. RBI board approves transfer of rupees 2.69 lakh crore surplus to Centre for 2024-25. Supreme Court declares maternity leave part of reproductive rights in K. Umadevi case. The first stage of the world's annual health report released. We begin with an important update from the United States. The US House has approved what is being called the One Big Beautiful Bill, which includes a notable provision introducing a 3.5% outward remittance tax. This new measure is officially termed the excise tax on remittance transfers and is set to come into effect starting January 1st, 2026. To understand this better, let's first clarify what remittances are. Remittances refer to the movement of funds sent from the country where people work back to their home countries. In 2023 alone, global remittances to home countries totaled approximately $656 billion. Notably, India received 14.3% of global remittances in 2024, marking its highest ever share. Moving on to the key highlights of the bill. The remittance tax or excise tax will apply only to non-US citizens. US citizens, however, are exempt from this tax. Among the affected groups are visa holders such as those on H-1B and F-1 visas, as well as green card holders. Another significant point in the bill is the reduction of the outward remittance tax rate, which has been lowered from 5% to 3.5%. Now, let's discuss the impact of this excise tax on remittance transfers. Economically, this change could create a ripple effect globally. Countries like El Salvador, Mexico, and India, which heavily rely on remittances from the US, may face economic setbacks as a result. Additionally, this proposal might discourage foreign workers from maintaining assets or employment within the United States. Focusing specifically on India, the United States remains the largest source of remittances to the country, contributing $32.9 billion to the total inflows during 2023-24. The introduction of a remittance tax might push some funds from Indians living in the US into grey or black markets, potentially bypassing official regulation. Turning to another aspect related to remittances, student remittances under the Liberalized Remittances Scheme or LRS fell to a 5-year low of $2.92 billion in the fiscal year 2025. This decline suggests a reduction in student outflows, according to the Reserve Bank of India. Speaking of the Liberalized Remittances Scheme, it was introduced in 2004 by the Reserve Bank of India. The scheme allows all resident individuals, including minors, to freely remit up to USD 250,000 per financial year for any permissible current or capital account transaction or a combination of both. Importantly, there are no restrictions on the frequency of remittances under this scheme. However, the scheme is not available to corporates, partnership firms, Hindu undivided families, trusts, and similar entities. In a significant development aimed at addressing gender disparity in the Indian judiciary, the Supreme Court has reinstated a female judicial officer who was earlier removed from service by the Rajasthan High Court. The Apex Court also used this occasion to strongly advocate for greater representation of women in the judiciary. The judicial officer had been removed by the Rajasthan High Court in 2020 for failing to disclose her previous employment as a government teacher while applying for civil judge's post. In its ruling in the Pinky Meena versus the High Court of Judicature for Rajasthan case, the Supreme Court highlighted the persistent underrepresentation of the women in the judiciary. The court made crucial observations. To holistically understand women's effective participation in judiciary, it is important to look at three main phenomena: the entry of women into the legal profession, the retention of women and growth of their numbers in the profession, and the advancement of women in numbers to senior echelons of the profession. The Supreme Court further asserted that greater representation of women in the judiciary would improve the overall quality of decision-making and enable better responses to diverse social and individual contexts and experiences. shift gender stereotypes, thereby changing attitudes and perceptions about appropriate roles of men and women, pave the way for greater representation in other decision-making positions, such as in the legislative and executive branches of government, and increase women's willingness to seek justice and enforce their rights through the courts. The statistics paint a stark picture of gender imbalance. At the Supreme Court level, since its establishment in 1950, there have been only 11 women judges. Over the last 75 years, there has been no Dalit or tribal women judge in the apex court. In the high courts, only 13.4% of judges are women, according to the State of the Judiciary Report 2023. Moreover, no state except Telangana and Sikkim has more than 30% women judges in high courts, as per the Indian Justice Report 2025. Alarmingly, Manipur, Meghalaya, Tripura, Patna and Uttarakhand high courts currently have no women judges. So, with this judgment, the Supreme Court has not only corrected an individual grievance, but also sent out a broader message on the need for gender equity in the judicial system, a call many believe that is long overdue. The Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, has approved a transfer of 2.69 lakh crore rupees as surplus to the central government for the financial year 2024-25. The transferable surplus has been arrived at on the basis of the revised economic capital framework as approved by the Central Board. The key sources of RBI's income include income from interest on government securities, net interest from liquidity management tools such as the Liquidity Adjustment Facility, loans, and interest earned on foreign currency investments. Now, let's dive into the details. The Economic Capital Framework was adopted by the RBI in 2019 based on the recommendations of the Bimal Jalan Committee. It forms an integral part of the enterprise-wide risk management framework introduced in 2012. The ECF provides a methodology for determining the appropriate level of risk provisions and profit distribution to be made under Section 47 of the RBI Act 1934. Therefore, maintaining adequate provisions in the form of economic capital is crucial to absorb risks that may arise from any unforeseen events. Under the ECF, the components of economic capital include realized equity and revaluation balances. Realized equity consists of the RBI's capital, reserve fund, contingency fund, and asset development fund. A significant portion of this is the contingent risk buffer or CRB, which serves to provide for monetary and financial stability, credit, and operational risks. On the other hand, revaluation balances reflect the unrealized gains, net of losses resulting from exchange rate, gold price, and interest rate movements. The committee has recommended that the framework be reviewed every 5 years. With regard to major revisions in the ECF, the risk provisioning under the CRB has been expanded within a range of 4.5% to 7.5% of the RBI's balance sheet. The increase in CRB to 7.5% for 2024-25 has consequently reduced the dividend. The RBI's CRB is referred to as the country's savings for a rainy day or a financial stability crisis, and it is consciously maintained in view of the central bank's role as lender of last resort or LOLR. Furthermore, market risk has now been revised to include both on and off balance sheet exposures, and it now also covers minor currency assets. This decision reflects RBI's cautious approach to financial stability, while continuing to support fiscal needs through a well-calibrated and transparent surplus transfer mechanism. In a landmark judgment, the Supreme Court ruled that maternity leave is an essential component of a woman's reproductive rights, thereby reinforcing the constitutional and human rights of working women. This decision came in the case of K. Umadevi versus Government of Tamil Nadu, where the court set aside a Madras High Court order that had denied maternity leave to a woman on the birth of her third child, citing the state's policy that limited such benefits to women with only 2 children. The Supreme Court observed that maternity leave is an integral part of maternity benefits and forms a core aspect of a woman's reproductive rights. It further stated that a woman's right to reproductive choices is protected under Article 21, as a part of personal liberty, referencing the Suchita Srivastava versus Chandigarh administration case. Moreover, the court highlighted that reproductive rights are enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights or UDHR and include the rights to health, privacy, dignity, and equality. Additionally, it was stated that the maternity leave law is designed to uphold social justice by supporting women's dual roles as mothers and workers, ensuring they can lead an autonomous and dignified life. While population control is a valid policy objective, it cannot override fundamental reproductive rights. A rational balance must be struck to serve the broader goals of justice, equity, and welfare. The Maternity Benefit Act of 1961, amended in 2017, provides for paid maternity leave and related benefits to women employees before and after childbirth. It is applicable to factories, mines, plantations, government establishments, shops, and other workplaces with 10 or more employees. Furthermore, women covered under the Employees State Insurance Act 1948 also receive maternity benefits. As per the Act, 26 weeks of paid leave is granted for women with less than 2 surviving children and 12 weeks for those with 2 or more children. In a landmark move, the World Organization for Animal Health, or WOAH, has released the first ever State of the World's Animal Health Report, offering a comprehensive global overview of animal health in a rapidly changing world. Headquartered in Paris, WOAH was originally established in 1924 as the Office International des Epizooties and was renamed in 2003. The organization plays a pivotal role in disseminating transparent information on animal diseases, enhancing global animal health, and contributing to a safer, healthier, and more sustainable world. The key findings of the report reveal several pressing challenges. Firstly, shifting disease patterns are a growing concern, with infectious animal diseases spreading into new geographical areas. Notably, 47% of these diseases have zoonotic potential, meaning they can be transmitted from animals to humans. An example cited is Peste des Petits Ruminants, which affects sheep and goats. Traditionally confined to developing nations, it has now re-emerged in Europe. Moreover, there is a marked rise in intensity of diseases such as African swine fever, avian influenza, and foot-and-mouth disease. These are becoming more frequent and severe, posing a significant threat to agri-food systems, public health, biodiversity, and food security. The report also identifies climate change and expanding global trade as major drivers of disease spread. A related issue of growing concern is antimicrobial resistance, or AMR. By 2050, AMR is expected to cause livestock losses that could jeopardize the food security of 2 billion people, with projected economic losses of $100 trillion. To address these challenges, the report recommends ensuring equitable access to safe and effective vaccines, alongside other control measures like improved hygiene and biosecurity measures. It also stresses the importance of investments in national veterinary services, stronger global and regional coordination, and enhanced disease surveillance systems. This report highlights the urgent need for collective global action to safeguard animal and public health in the face of evolving threats. In today's Place in News, we turn our focus to Australia with its capital Canberra, where a once-in-a-century flooding event has left nearly 50,000 people stranded. This unprecedented situation has raised alarms across the country and the world. Now let's take a quick look at Australia's political features. Australia is the smallest continent but the 6th largest country on Earth. It lies strategically between the Pacific and Indian Oceans, separated from Indonesia by the Timor and Arafura Seas to the northwest, and from Papua New Guinea by the Coral Sea and Torres Strait to the northeast. In terms of governance, Australia follows a federal system and is a constitutional monarchy. As a Commonwealth of the United Kingdom, its head of the state is the British monarch. Shifting to geographical features, more than one-third of Australia is desert. It is home to major mountain ranges like the Great Dividing Range and the Macdonnell Range, and rivers such as the Murray-Darling, Murrumbidgee, and Lachlan. And off the east coast of Queensland lies a natural marvel, the Great Barrier Reef, the largest mass of coral in the world. As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. At the recent BRICS Trade Ministers meeting, India called for dismantling of export controls among BRICS members. Key annexures adopted include BRICS Declaration on WTO reform and strengthening of multilateral trading system, BRICS Data Economy Governance Understanding, and BRICS Trade and Sustainable Development Framework. Ministry of Food Processing Industries or MOFPI has invited applications under the scheme for creation of infrastructure for agro-processing clusters as part of the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana or PMKSY, a central sector scheme approved in 2017. Dual taxation on broadcasting services permissible in law according to Supreme Court judgment. Dual taxation is permissible as it taxes different aspects of the same activity under distinct legislative powers. Centre can levy service tax on broadcasting as a service under Entry 97 Union List. The Reserve Bank of India notified the Payments Regulatory Board Regulations 2025 under Payment and Settlement System Act 2007. These regulations replace the earlier Board for Regulation and Supervision of Payment and Settlement Systems Regulations 2008. Uttarakhand Forest Department's latest report highlights the conservation of 2,228 plant species, including white Himalayan lily and tree fern. White Himalayan lily is a rare and fragrant lily species native to the Himalayan region, known for its white or pink flowers. Supreme Court orders cadre review in all Central Armed Police Forces or CAPFs within 6 months. CAPF are armed police organizations under the Ministry of Home Affairs. CAPFs include Assam Rifles, Border Security Force, Central Industrial Security Force, Central Reserve Police Force, etc. UAPA Tribunal upholds Centre's decision to declare Meghalaya's Hainib Treb National Liberation Council or HNLC as unlawful association for another 5 years. UAPA 1967's aim at the effective prevention of certain unlawful activities by individuals and associations as well as dealing with terrorist activities. Vice President of India inaugurated the statues of Charak and Sushrut installed at Raj Bhavan, Goa. Charak was the loyal physician in the Kushan kingdom and is known as the father of medicine. He authored the Charak Samhita. It records the proceedings of a conference on Ayurveda which took place at the Himalayan foothills. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.